So put the rest of them into the anecdote. So
Got that beverage.
water.
It's very hot. Yes, it's very hot. Hotter than usual.
Yeah, well, 90 something.
Hotter than usual, but
Yeah. So every Wednesday this pick it up with that.
what minutes?
Every time when I had a reading here, I waited until people should have.
It's 4:40.
I just posted.
I'll give them just one more. 4:30.
Give them 4 minutes.
Okay.
4:45.
All right.
I'm sending you the link for the live stream so you can post it to your page.
To what?
For the live stream for that, you can post it to your page. I'm going to send you the link on Facebook.
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook has it. Are you want to post it?
Ah, there I am. So I got to go on my Instagram too. That's the thing.
Oh, you're going to post it on your Instagram?
But I like this. Send this to me so I'll keep this. Want it to stay with me?
Yeah.
Because Instagram goes away after 48 hours. I don't know why I do that.
Yeah.
Just to encourage you to keep making new material.
You can download it on your
I can't figure it out.
Okay.
No, sure.
I'll show you. I'm grabbing food now.
Huh?
I'm going to grab some food now.
No problem. Think you're gonna quit work?
Oh, I don't know.
Think you might have to work forever?
It would be nice and pay off some bills. 2 years ago, had that, and I had a car. I had that.
All right.
So,
No fun for me or you.
my sister wants me to retire. My sister's talking about retiring, and she wants me to retire at the same time. But it's like I don't know if it's big financially feasible.
You're gonna have to just work till you can. So they ask you to do.
And well, I don't know where it's at.
Probably work till you're 70.
Oh my goodness. Even after
Oh, well, see, he was about, I was 4. I'd say, yeah, he was about 69 or 70 when he closed the station.
Okay. I didn't realize he was that old.
He was born in 1960. Just passed his 100th birthday. 26th birthday.
It's funny, my son and I were singing the Nutshell song. I told him I used to watch Nutshell all the time.
How old is your son?
8.
Good, grief.
Yeah. So he was like, what did you watch it on? And I was like, well, they used to have stuff for kids. Back in the day, they used to have TV shows on Saturday. And it was funny. It's funny that they have a Nutshell.
Yes. So if more are coming, they'll have to come in mid-election. Turn on my instant plan. Turn it sideways. I look very tolerant and posing. But at least I can do it that way. So I look down, it's just to acknowledge the audience. Look at it, you're gonna talk to me. All right. All right, you set? Okay, press your buttons. And welcome everybody to the second of a set of 3 pop cultural lectures, sponsored by my friend Raymond Washington, who provides the funding for this, as well as the snacks. Yes. Today, in fact, I want to remind you now, I'm coming to you from the Community Book Center at 2523 Bayou Road here in New Orleans, Louisiana. And that's for those of you who are not here. So you can listen in, all this, and somewhere in the ether I'm on YouTube, but I don't do that. But I'm on YouTube live right now. Everything's going live. Now, for those of you, I'm going to do 3 of these. This is the second. The first is 1954, because of the new Godzilla that is playing in theaters now. This one is about the Saturday morning cartoon, the rise and fall of the Saturday morning cartoon. Come on in.
Hello.
Also, next time, the last of these will be about Star Wars. The title being, of course, it's left-wing propaganda, you troll. It always was. Anyway, but today, the rise and fall of the Saturday morning cartoon, as some of you out there, used to be a national tradition. Like kids would it's Friday at 3 o'clock, cartoons on the morning, and then after the cartoons, you go out and play. So 1 o'clock, we're out in the street here in New Orleans. You kids up north, it's 2 o'clock, you gotta get out late. That's when Tom and Jerry went off right after the Lone Ranger. Now, the beginnings. As they said on Star Trek one time, we must go back to the time of the beginning. Now, before Saturday morning cartoons, as you may have known them, it was a semi-wasteland for kids. It wasn't unwatchable, but it wasn't specifically like, we're really thinking about the kids. We're really thinking about the kids. I remember, and I'm old enough, I'm prehistoric. When I was at kindergarten, Martinez, what you would find on, excuse me, Saturday morning was The Adventures of Sky King, maybe some broke down Rin Tin Tin episodes. Republic serials, like I remember a specific one on Channel 6, The Mysterious Dr. Satan, because it had the tin can robots, and that always struck me as like, oh, tin can robots. I was only 5, so I was eating it up. And maybe a cartoon or two. For instance, Odie Coloni, who was a skunk, who was assistant to Leonardo the Lion King, okay? And they called him Odie Coloni. Joke on him being a skunk. Yuck. Now, when I was a kid, that was sophisticated. Now it's like, oh yeah, okay. And that was it. Maybe a local guy might have a show on and host cartoons, but that was it. Occasionally, with King Leonardo and Odie Coloni, a network would put something on. They might buy something, like for instance, Fireball XL5, one of the first Super Marionation puppet shows about space. I used to watch that every Saturday morning. And that's about all I remember. And of course, the cartoons that were on in prime time. The Flintstones, not yet. Top Cat, that would come on in the morning because they canceled it in 1962 in prime time. Then the Jetsons ran, they got canceled, so they'd wind up on Saturday morning. So we're getting cast off stuff. Nothing originally made for that time slot. That's what it was like. So little by little in 1964, an original cartoon was made for kids. And I remember it was called Underdog. You know, speed of lightning, roar of thunder, fighting all who rob or plunder. Underdog, yes, with the Simon Bar Sinister and Tap Tap the Chiseler, and don't forget the incomparable Riff Raff and Miss Sweet Polly Purebred. Even as a kid, I said, oh, that's clever. They're making fun of Superman. And that was interesting. That was one of the first original cartoons made for kids on television. But again, that's nice. Throw the kids something. You know, I got kids. They should have something. Bob Keeshan, in 1965, did an original Saturday morning show called Mr. Mayor. He would do Captain Kangaroo Monday through Friday, and he would have this show on about 8 o'clock in the morning called Mr. Mayor, with a town clown, but I liked it because he would go into this room to run a giant set of Lionel trains. That was every week. So I would watch that to see him go in and operate the trains. You know, that was the attraction for me. But again, nothing much going on. So we're talking 1964 to 1965. Now, again, bit of a wasteland. You can watch it. Yeah, I guess. Some westerns, you know, Gene Autry. Oh my God, don't forget, Roy Rogers and Trigger. That was another staple of Saturday morning syndication. Again, this is not done by a network. This is just being picked up by local stations in many cases. You know, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, Trigger, and Bullet, the Wonder Dog. Yes, who could forget Bullet, the Wonder Dog? Anyway, oddball thing about Roy Rogers is that he took place in modern times, which I thought was weird. This is a Western movie. Riding, the sidekick is riding around in a Jeep. So how they got Jeeps and Westerns? That was like really weird as a kid. But I watched it. And hope you forget, Happy Trails to You. It's an absolute famous song. All right. Now, something happened. Now, I got to go back. February 1964. Not too long after Kennedy was killed, the Beatles made their big appearance on Ed Sullivan. Now, the Beatles are tied into Saturday morning cartoons. Walk you through the Beatles. Oh, now, I think it was 78 million people watched that broadcast in February 1964. I remember it because my sister jumped up and down in the screen because the Beatles were on. Yes, that was real. That whole screaming thing, that was a real thing. That's not a joke. Now, it was such a big smash. This is a little aside here. Petticoat Junction was a show made by Paul Hinning, who did the Beverly Hillbillies. Well, the three girls plus a female guest star did an episode not too long after the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan. Quick turnaround, like weeks, where they were the Ladybugs, and they would play and sing Beatles songs. It was so crazy. These characters from Petticoat Junction, the actresses who played Billy Joe, Bobby Joe, Betty Joe, and I forget the name of the friend, but I know the friend was played by Sheila James, who used to be Gilroy on Dobie Gillis. So, Zelda Gilroy on Dobie Gillis. They went on Ed Sullivan with this joke and actually played the songs on Ed Sullivan. That's how crazy it was. The Beatles just tore everything apart. And of course, it became a bit of a, how can I say, a punchline. The yeah, yeah, yeah thing from She Loves You, yeah, yeah, yeah. That became a thing. It's constantly yeah, 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 yeah. Everybody put that on the internet show. Anyway, this was huge. They were like the biggest group in the country. So somebody got the crazy idea, and this would not be the last time this happened, to create a cartoon show that could be broadcast on Saturday mornings. This was ABC who coughed this up. And it came on the Beatles, September 1965. Went on the air. Well, all heck broke loose. The ratings went berserk. This thing was not getting just a few, a million, or maybe 3 or 4 million. This thing was getting like 6, maybe as high as 8 million people tuning into a cartoon. This was huge numbers. They'd never seen anything like that. That's not much. But for that time slot, hokey smoke, Bullwinkle. So the networks lost their minds, and they saw that. CBS saw that. NBC saw that. So let me get this straight. If you have popular and compelling material, you can get an audience on Saturday morning. This can be done. You can make money. And of course, the cereal manufacturers, the toy manufacturers. If we target these advertisers to these kids, we can make a fortune because ABC was making bank on the Beatles. And in those days, it took a lot. Parents weren't really watching stuff on Saturday morning. So a kid could almost have run of the TV for a few hours. From like 6 o'clock to 12:30, 1 o'clock. Then the football games and stuff would come on, and Dad would come in, and you had to be there. That's okay, you saw everything you wanted to see. So if you turned on the Beatles, you'd probably leave the channel on ABC. And they noticed that, because they get lead in and say, oh, the Beatles, oh my God, the Beatles, what are we going to do, what are we going to do? So the other networks simply quickly got wise and said, we need art. Daytime people, yeah, we know you do soap operas and early news and stuff like that, but you got game shows, but you got to do this cartoon thing, so you're in charge. So at CBS, a man named Fred Silverman was tasked with CBS daytime. All of that and the Saturday morning cartoons too. What? We're doing cartoons? Yes, we're doing actual cartoons. We got to make them. Did you see what the Beatles are doing for ABC? Okay. Now, he would become later the head of ABC and give you Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and make ABC the #1 network in the country. But that's where he made his bones, entertaining me as a child. Because I'm very old. Yes. Very. So, another thing happened. This was prime time. January the 12th, 1966. Because remember, the Beatles came on in September 65. Television shows run for a year from September to September. So, Batman comes on in 1966. Blows the roof off the ratings. This silly costume thing with these kooky guys is making the #1 show in the country. Are you nuts? No. Okay, Fred Silverman, give us super people. Licensed super people. Make super anything. We don't care. Just get it. So first things first, he gets to work. All the other networks get to work. So they're looking for properties, IPs that might be recognizable. See, this whole thing of doing stuff over and over again is not new. So Fred Silverman licensed two IPs, The Lone Ranger for a cartoon and The New Adventures of Superman, with the same voice playing Superman that played it on the radio, Bud Collins. He invented that, gee, this looks like a job for Superman. The whole octave would fall, changing it. So that whole thing was invented by him. Up and Away came from the radio show.
Wait, wasn't Superman in prime time?
No, Batman.
Batman was in prime time.
Batman stimulated all of this activity.
But I remember a Superman live action.
Yes, that would be in the daytime. That was Monday through Fridays with George Reeves.
Right, so
Yeah.
they decided to do a cartoon also?
Well, by 1966, that TV show was defunct, even though it kept running.
Okay.
So the property became available, and thus they were able to put this on right after Space Ghost, which is essentially Batman in space. He could turn invisible power, as Batman was supposed to secrete himself into the shadows, and then he also had an invisible ship. And if you thought having Robin, the Boy Wonder, was cool, guess what? Jan and Jace, the space orphans, would hang out with Space Ghost. Don't ask me how. They were brother and sister. I don't know the laws of space adoption, but they're hanging with this guy. And of course, he puts them, like Batman, in constant danger from heat monsters, villains, Metallo, all of that stuff, okay? So all this is going on. And of course, Fred Silverman, remember him? Space Ghost. Wait, I gotta go back further. He also comes on Hanna-Barbera. The people gave you Flintstones, the Jetsons, Johnny Quest, Coughed Up, the Space Cadets for NBC, and then Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles for CBS. So Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, after Underdog, which CBS got from NBC, then Space Ghost, then Superman, then The Lone Ranger, and finish off with Tom and Jerry Classic. Oh, excuse me, after that, Roadrunner 2. So, this, of course, became a solid ratings hit. We can make money off these children. Oh, it just rubs my little capitalist cockle. Look, he's dead. Oh. Yes, so, these cartoons were hits, and of course the other networks followed through. Now I'm going to tell you, but back up. This was so new and unusual for television that there was such a thing as the prime time special in September for you kids to watch and see what we're going to have for you on Saturday mornings. So ABC at the same time, remember this is the 1966 to 67 television season. Again, the Beatles and Batman was influencing what was being made. ABC had King Kong, a King Kong cartoon. The little boy, his sister, and his scientist dad kind of stealing from Johnny Quest. Instead of one kid, they got two kids. And Captain Englehorn, a character from the original King Kong movie, who had the ship, the Venture, that brought them to Skull Island. So that's what was going on. And a little bit more on King Kong. I'll bounce back to King Kong in a minute. This is why. Now things are blowing up. There's stuff to watch on television, specifically for kids. 1966 was a huge. Now they, again, experimented before. Secret Squirrel. Anybody remember Secret Squirrel? No, yeah, that was, okay, that's another thing. Bond was huge. So we need a spy cartoon character. NBC put him on in 1965. But yeah, it was successful, but it wasn't no Beatles. And it wasn't a Space Ghost, and it wasn't a Superman, it wasn't the Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles, you know? And of course, I can't do this without at least doing one cartoon song. Okay? Because after all, it's cartoons is fun. Now, what an agent, What a squirrel. He's got the country in a whirl. What's his name? Shh, secret squirrel. He's got tricks up his sleeve. Most bad guys won't believe a bulletproof coat, a cannon hat, a machine gun cane with a rat-tat-tat-tat. He fights foreign spies in disguise. He's a man of many faces. He's a squirrel of many faces. Who's that? Oh my, who's that? Ole, who's that? Now, bum, bum, bum. Secret squirrel. Shh. So, it wouldn't be fun if I didn't know a couple of cartoon songs. Now, this is tremendous. This is blowing up network television on Saturday morning. Every network's gotta come up with something. Keep it coming. These kids like it. Now, one little aside. As a child, I noticed primetime shows got renewed and had whole new episodes. But these guys would booger jive us by just renewing the show but running the episodes over again. I said, come on. It really was nice to see Space Ghost in 1967 have the 6-part Legion of Doom. So that was fun. But I wanted more new Space Ghosts. I was ready for them to kill more people. And yes, when we get to that, the violence in these Saturday morning cartoons. Yes. On Space Ghost, people would blow up, or the monster would get the mad scientist. Either his monster will save him or kill him. We don't know. You know, there's a lesson in all this somewhere. I mean, the lessons were really stark. Don't be bad. Yes, we were being indoctrinated. Yes, it was propagandistic, but we ate it up like crazy because it was colorful, exciting, things blew up, and people disintegrated. You know, yes, Space Ghost, you and your little friends will die in my atomic rockets. We blast them off, we will explode in seconds unless Space Ghost can figure a way out. And oh, I forgot, Little Bleep, the space chimp. He would usually get them out of trouble because the villain would never notice that an invisible chimp was going to mess up his stuff just when he had them in their clutches. So yes, this is getting huge. It's getting as important in the daytime as the soap operas and the game shows. So we had this the secret squirrel, we have the secret agent thing, and Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles. The Impossible was a rock group. Because remember, the Beatles, we're looking for rock and roll. Can you put some rock and roll in it some kind of way? Yes, yes, rock and roll. Okay, we'll give you rock and roll, says Hanna-Barbera. So the Impossibles comprise of 3 people. Let me see, Multi-Man, Fluid Man, and oh my goodness, Coil Man, who was like a giant slinky. He would bounce. The Fluid Man would turn into water and splash everybody. And of course, Multi-Man would split into how many ever people that he needed to be to fool an enemy. I killed all of the Multi-Men, all except the original, and all the time, only except the original. So anyway, they were a rock group called the Impossibles, and they would always be called by Big Daddy, like he's some record producer. He was the head of the agent, the secret agent people that would send them out on cases. And just to show you what inflation was like back then, usually on Birdman, not the one with Michael Keaton, but an actual Birdman. You might remember Harvey Birdman. That was a takeoff of a 1967 Hanna-Barbera cartoon, Birdman, okay? So, Birdman, all the villains would always be trying to steal $1 million in gold, $1 million in diamonds. $1 million in 1966 was real money. Now you have to go for $1 billion, or you're just wasting everybody's time, including James Bond. So that's what's going on. This is getting bigger and bigger. Now, rock and roll. Now I'm going to segue from the superheroes and a lot of the action to rock and roll. Remember the Beatles? They still tearing up. Oh, man, can you put some rock and roll into this? Yes. A cartoon I found fondly. Okay, y'all can take notes. A lot of this is on YouTube. The Beatles. Sounds like the Beatles. 2 dogs and a Scottish terrier who is their publicity agent. And they would sing songs on the show. Songs like Captain of the Ship, Sharing Wishes Over Dishes, really bubblegum stuff. But of course, while it was clever, and if you find the Beatles on YouTube, you'll find the songs. They're actually pleasant songs. They really are pleasant songs, but they didn't get to quite play that down the line after the Beatles came, 1968. Now I gotta back up. 1968 is a pivotal year, violence in the streets, assassinations, and the people, the mothers of America said, hey, wait a minute, there's a little too much killing on these shows. And also, we're kind of offended of this cartoon called Super President. Yes, there was a cartoon, you can find it on YouTube, called Super President. Jim Macros, powered with unbelievable strength. He can turn himself into copper, gold, whatever the situation calls for. Risen to the highest office in the land. He serves his nation as Super President. Now, he looks just like Mike Pence, but he's way better a president than any of the guys we have now. You know, he actually cares about the country and protects us from enemies, and is incorruptible. And he has one little aide named Jerry. No cabinet. He's the real only I can do it guy. You know, he doesn't answer to Congress. He never has to give a speech. He just does what he wants. He's Trump's dream, but without the decency. Anyway, we're kind of offended. We just had a president killed, and you have a show on where a president is super? We don't think that's kind of tasteless. And of course, the show died. I might have been the only kid watching it. I was like totally blown away by the idea of a superhero president. So, we come on. Violence, raising hell, we don't want censorship. Okay, what do we do? Rock and roll, situation comedy. So in 1968, the last of the superhero shows, the Batman Superman Hour of Adventure, came on. Went to reruns a season after. It was gone by 1970. But 1968. Here we go. Do. Archie's here. Ba-da-da-da-da. Reggie's here. Veronica too. Betty's here. Ba-da-da-da. Hey Jughead, where are you? We're gonna sing and we're gonna dance, have some fun and go adventuring. All our friends are here, but we ain't complete. You see, we ain't the Archies without the Jughead beat. Whoa, Archie's here. Ba-da-da-da-da. Reggie's here. Veronica too. Betty's here. Ba-da-da-da-da. Hey, hot dog, where are you? So everything's Archie. Come on, let's go with the Archie show. Now, that's the theme song for that. Blasted to the top of the ratings. Tore up the rating. Oh my God. Superheroes are kind of like dead now. They want kids and teenagers. So we get the wave of teenage cartoons going into the 70s. Teenage this, teenage that. And of course, as you know, the Archies had the #1 hit in the United States, Sugar Sugar. Everybody remembers Sugar Sugar. They still play that. #1 hit. A guy named Ive Kirshner put that together. He was angry with the monkeys because they kept demanding things to make the show better. He just wanted them to shut up and sing and do what they do. He said, the next time I get a top group, they're not going to be human. And sure enough, they're Archies. So they were human, and they were composed of session singers and instruments, musicians. So we have that going on. Huge ratings. Everybody loves it. Again, they had a primetime special to introduce their second season, presenting Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. You might know Sabrina, the Teenage Witch has a TV show. Before that, she was a wholesome Samantha Stevens teenager type with magic and everything. She'd get in and out of crazy situations, and she had, I think, aunts who were witches. For some reason, no matter how beautiful the person was, they had to have mean or ugly-looking relatives. Okay, that was the thing. So this took over the television. This was amazing. So after that, you had Josie and the Pussycats the next season. They did a band. They had music. Not as popular at all as the Archies, but the tin plate was there. Okay, and of course, 1969, again, we gotta cut down on the violence, but we can do comedy and slapstick. Yeah, comedy and slapstick, that's the ticket. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Remember that? That was another smash hit. So between the Archies and Scooby-Doo, CBS had like the top shows on the air still. Now ABC caught up. Now here's the new formula for the 70s. Some kind of mascot. It could be a talking car like Speed Buggy. It can be a ghost like the Funky Phantom. He's from 1776. He got here and he met some kooky teenagers and they have adventures in haunted houses and things just like Scooby-Doo and the Gang, which is a big hit. And in fact, Scooby-Dooby-Doo is so popular, it has actually lasted decades with new productions and new cartoons, all the way up to a semi-live action movie with a CGI Scooby. So Fred, Daphne, and your boy Shaggy. Now, interesting thing about Scooby-Doo, the counterculture was very big. So how do we do the counterculture that all the kids like? Well, Scooby-Doo and them riding around in that van, the Mystery Machine, that still has that semi-psychedelic design on the front with the bold colors. Okay? Shaggy's still a hippie. Fred should have been drafted in Vietnam. I don't know what the heck he was doing there. Was he just not around when the draft board was looking for him? Oh no, we're on a mystery tour. I can't possibly be drafted to Vietnam, you know? I mean, it's really hilarious, but yet, and Shaggy could go. He just needs a little meat on his bones. He's eligible for military service, but somehow these college age, all those college age kids escaped the draft and just kept on rolling around. Didn't even know about Vietnam. Then the Hardy Boys on ABC was made into a television series. Now I got to tell you, before I go there, I have neglected a thing. You all know about Walt Disney. You know about Hanna-Barbera? Yeah, Hanna-Barbera. Who knows about Filmation? They did the Archies. They even did a Saturday morning version of Star Trek in 1973. So you can watch those. Those are not bad episodes. They're actually well written, even though it's on Saturday morning. And I don't mean it the way it sounds, but not much was expected except ratings. Give us ratings. We don't care if the animation is non-existent. It's not our problem. Just bring us ratings. So, we're in the 70s. We're doing teenagers. Oh my God, another Beatles struck. Another lightning strike. Guess what? The Jackson 5 were huge in 1969. They just burst on the scene. And on the Ed Sullivan Show, Ed Sullivan again, busy getting people famous. Barry Gordy's last big act. After that, he couldn't do much. Excuse me. Take a little taste of a salt. So the Jackson 5 come on, using their music, just as spastically animated as the Beatles. In fact, the actual Beatles did not like their cartoon. Never mind that, the songs would run on ABC, a broadcast network, and you're getting a check from Broadcast Music International every month for that silliness. They ran until 1969. And I did like the caricatures. The caricatures were pretty on. The next time you see the Beatles animated will be, of course, in the classic Yellow Submarine. So, teenagers, rock and roll, mascots, dogs. Oh, who remembers Jabberjaw? Yes. Jabber, 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 jabber. Yes. He played with a gang called the Neptunes. They lived in some futuristic underwater society. And he sounded like Curly from the Three Stooges, the original Curly. They were in a band called the Neptunes. And it was in the wake of Jaws. Now, one little thing about Saturday morning, they do see what's going on. Like I said, the counterculture, teenagers, the Hardy Boys from the Mystery Series was made in a cartoon. They had a band, a rock and roll band. They had one hit in the fall of 1969, along with Sugar Sugar, called Love and Let Love. which is a nice little bubblegum anthem for peace and love and all that. And the psychedelic stuff, the bell bottoms, the hair, the ascots, all of that, you know. Girls with long hair like that. It was, again, they do pay attention. They did pay attention to what's going on outside, what was the popular thing, whatever was popular. They sucked it up like a sponge. 70s, who remembers the Waltons? Good night, John Boy, all that. There was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, Walton style, called Those Were the Days. Take place at the turn of the century. Yes, really well done. The animation, the style of the animation was nice. So that was a show about Hanna-Barbera. So they kept following what was going on in prime time or outside. So, 70s, the celebrity cartoon, the actual celebrity, as I said, the Jackson 5, the Beatles, then it caught up with Muhammad Ali, who had a cartoon show called The Greatest. Muhammad Ali basically had the same scripts as Mr. T's cartoon. Do good things, I'm saving you, listen to me, pay attention to your elders, don't play with matches, kids, that kind of stuff. And I've seen a couple of episodes of this. They're on YouTube too. He never really goes deep into social justice, just enough to get the kids to be nice and everything. But he never goes up against like the police department. Not like that. Now, superheroes were still going on, but they had to be curtailed. Superman cannot really punch anybody. Batman can't really kick nobody's behind. There can be no gunplay. So Super Friends came out. So you can fight volcanoes, earthquakes, runaway trains. Villains can only do things only so far. They can threaten, but they can't really do it. So nobody can die at the hand of a super villain. Then they can make them disappear into another dimension. You got to go rescue them. I shall make everyone disappear into another dimension at my command. That's it. In fact, it's the kind of writing I do with Afro Brothers Spaceman. Nobody really gets hurt. No one's ever died. So Superman, cooperation, teamwork, girls, and they had Indian superhero. They had an Asian, Japanese superhero. These superheroes never went anywhere. But heck, if I was an Indian kid on a reservation, I got a creaky TV, I might watch that silliness because at least it's me. At least it's me. That might. And of course, the Asians. Now, teenagers with somebody. Again, 70s. Charlie Chan and the Incredible Chan Clan. Yes, Charlie Chan and the Incredible Chan Clan. Now, Hanna-Barbera, Filmation were the kings of this. So the networks went to either one of these guys. Ruby Spears was a company that also existed, but they got leftovers. Deep Pathé, Prince Feely, they got leftovers, but they had dynamite characters. They had Pink Panther, so that was their ticket. We can make as many Pink Panthers as you want. But, you know, the Ant, the Oddball. The Ant sounded like Dean Martin on a bender. The Aardvark sounded like Joy Bishop with a Jewish Yiddish thing going on. Oh yes, this new disguise, it's such a perfect fit. It's almost like compulsion. Oh my, that Aardvark's half in. You know, that's it. Yeah, the cartoons would sound, I guess they actually did, they must have done, in my suspicion, they must have done demographics. Somebody saw that adults were looking at this stuff with their kids at the time. So if they're watching with their kids, what can you do to keep the adults going? Have the Ant sound like Dean Martin on the Bender, and the Aardvark sound like Joey Bishop. Two Rat Pack guys, all right? So we got the Rat Pack on Saturday morning cartoons. But of course, clever enough so that Dean Martin and Joey Bishop don't sue. But no violence, teenagers, and of course the famous people cartoon. So Jerry Lewis, will the real Jerry Lewis please sit down? He had a cartoon by Filmation. So we're getting people who are real. Culminating, I'm going to get to that later, in the 90s. The 90s is the last great hurrah of the Saturday morning cartoon. So I'm going through the 70s. So we're finishing through the 70s. Rock and roll kind of faded by 1980. Nobody was churning out big hits who was a cartoon character. The superheroes were still going strong. Uh, Adventure shows are difficult to write. And one of my favorite ones of the late 70s was Super Stretch and Micro Woman. You got to find Super Stretch and Micro Woman. A black couple. Now, at the time, I was irked at the arguing and yelling between black men and women on primetime television. Like, dang, y'all don't even have time to love each other and give a hoot. I mean, you know, George and Weezy fussing. Fred Sanford and any female, except the nurse that he liked, fussing. Always men and women fussing. So then here comes Super Stretch and Micro Woman on CBS. They were part of a mixture, universe of cartoons, cartoon universe, something like that. Or the Cartoon Sentinels. I forget what it was, but it was on CBS. His power was he could stretch himself like Reed Richards with the Fantastic Four. Her power was she could shrink to any size required. I can only imagine what a wonderful love life they must have had with that type of power. But I'm not going to get into that now. But anyway, they were the only ones that seemed to like each other. You can find them on YouTube as well. It's an interesting scene where there's a villain has figured out to do a duplicate of them. They commit crimes. And it's just incredible to see all the police surrounding their house with this black couple. And it looks so visually like what's going on now. I said, Jesus, that stupid little idea of a cartoon carried heavier weight now after Ferguson and all that. I said, all these cops are surrounding this black couple's house. Now, don't they believe that that's not the real Super Stretch and Micro Woman? But nonetheless, I love that cartoon. Now, we're going into, yes?
When did Hanna-Barbera do the puppet?
Oh, you mean this? Oh, tra-la-la, the banana splits. That was 1968. Again, we got to get out of the superhero thing a little bit. Give us giant characters, you know, Fleegle, Snarkle, Snark, and Fruit, whatever the heck their names was. I watched it. There was only one thing I watched when that show came on. We used to have a thing where they'd have a gang across town. The Sour Grapes Bunch. Yes, the Sour Grapes Bunch. And this little black girl would come in with a message from the Sour Grapes Bunch. And she'd dance with her little mini skirt, and she'd zap them, and they'd fall down. Every time she would do this, they'd fall down. I used to like that. That used to interest me, that they had this black girl having all this black girl magic, and nobody was even thinking about that at the time. But yes, the other girls got to do it too, but I liked it with the little black girl that did it. So that was, again, now, again, moving into the 80s. The Smurfs! Yes. Based on a European fairy tale. And it took off. It was probably the last big hit for Hanna-Barbera on Saturday mornings. Then, of course, after that came the Snorks. And then I think My Little Pony showed up. All the fluffy, buffy things. And of course, by that time, I naturally had to stop watching Saturday morning cartoons. There wasn't even a Godzilla Power Hour to entertain me. So I and of course, there were the occasional Superman reboots. One of the most famous things, I think, of the 1980s was the Mickey Mouse. Not the Mickey Mouse, the Mighty Mouse revival. Yes, that was a Mighty Mouse revival. I enjoyed it. There was even a folk. This goes all the way before some of our conservative brethren and their made-up faux controversies. There's a scene in the CBS cartoon, Mighty Mouse, where he sniffs flowers. He's just sniffing the flowers. That's all he's doing, sniffing the flowers. Somehow it turned into this, he's doing drugs. Mighty Mouse is doing drugs in front of our kids. He's sniffing on television. No matter how hard people try to put that down, CBS just said, okay, we'll just cut the scene. Fine. So now there are people today thinking that Mickey Mouse did drugs just because, Mighty Mouse did drugs just because he sniffed flowers. Yes, it was a deep sniff, but heck, they were flowers. But anyway, the 80s, to me, just weren't as exciting. The last exciting era of the Saturday morning cartoons was the 1990s. 1990s, folks. You had Pee-wee's Playhouse on, okay? You had probably one of the greatest superhero cartoons ever made in the history of man. I know I'm saying a lot, but it had soap operas, it had adventure, it had love and romance. You know, the people kissed each other, okay? And that would have to be Fox's X-Men cartoon.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, if you look at that, you'll get more out of it than you do out of at least most of the X-Men movies made. Sorry, you know, they try to do the race, civil rights thing, but they just bungled it. You know, they didn't write it. If you want to do the civil rights thing, you're spending $100 million, you go ahead. One mutant's got to be lynched. You need something like that. You need a church attacked and killed with mutants going over. You want to do it. But, you know, it was kind of half-baked. But the cartoon was more. People would yell at the mutants. They protest the mutants. They chase the mutants. I mean, it was really more dramatic than the movies. And who can forget Storm and Wolverine having a love affair in the future? Stone interracial romance. But heck, they're mutants. It's okay. They're not human like us. But nonetheless, that was a dynamite cartoon. That probably was the definitive cartoon of Saturday morning for the 90s. Variants, a clever cartoon by Steven Spielberg and Warner Brothers, entitled Freakazoid. Another teenager, nerd, you know, me, Dexter Davis, nerd computer ace. While searching on the internet, he got zapped in cyberspace. He turns into the Freakazoid, strong and super freak. He drives the villains crazy because he's a lunatic. Yes. I like that. Now, that one appealed to me. I knew it wasn't going to go well with kids. It was way too weird, sophisticated. Throwbacks to Boris, Bela Lugosi, obscure movies starring Forrest Tucker, like The Crawling Eye. Incredible stuff, but I loved it. I love the imitations of Jerry Lewis, and one of my favorite villains, the caveman, who was a big blue caveman, but he's tall, very eloquent. He was very. You think you can let us go? We have reservations for the Green Door. Oh, you're better off being kidnapped with me. I've been to the Green Door. It's awful. You're very articulate for a caveman type person. Oh, I subscribe to the New York. That sort of thing. That was kind of cute. I like that. Some of the things fell flat. I don't care for the punishment. But it was an interesting show. Ed Asner did the voice of Cosmo, the police chief. Hey, freak, want to go get a mint? Yeah, Cosmo, I would love to go to get a mint. Let's go to the mint restaurant. Excellent idea. And he would sit there with their bellies. That was the most delicious mint I ever had. That sort of thing. You know, I like, but so the 90s was probably the last time, but something started happening. Now, we've had fun, we've gone through it, we're kind of like the last hurrah. How did it fall apart? How did it go to the devil? Well, some observers believe the death knell was something called the Children's Television Act of 1990. Yes. It mandated the broadcasters do, 3 weekly hours of educational programming. But broadcasters, they're not that bright, or they didn't care. They stuck those 3 hours on Saturday morning. So, but at first they didn't listen. They kept making the stuff they want to make, kids kept watching. But in 1996, the FCC began to crack down. We see what you're doing. You're running the stuff we told you not to run. That isn't educational. But the X-Men, they kind of explain about race. No, they're stupid cartoons. We know when you're explaining racism and when you're just putting a stupid in. You're not fooling us. Now the cartoons began to fall. The Children's Television Act didn't say you had to put stuff on Saturday morning and take off the cartoon. From syndicators, it was cheaper than actually making a cartoon. Even though they tried to keep costs down forever on Saturday morning cartoons, it still costs money to make a Saturday morning cartoon. But once they started doing that, this is what happened. The Children's Television Act mandated could only have 10.5 minutes an hour for commercials. You know those guys are stuffing in an extra 7 minutes. Look at a primetime show. Lots of commercials. In my day, a primetime show, everything. Show, credits, exciting scenes from next week's show was 50 minutes. Now it's 45 minutes. So actually, we're getting screwed too. But they said, hey, you can't have a 10-minute, that means only 5 minutes every half hour. Well, I can't make this much money, and I can't really charge that much because not every cartoon's an Archie, not every cartoon's a Beatles. So it's actually costing me, the network, more to make the animated cartoon show. So they actually began to make cartoons more expensive. Less ad space means less cartoons, kids. But something else was going on. You kids out there, oh, you all sit and watch every day now, but we know what you did because we got the algorithmic proof. And the NBC president, Brandon Tartikoff, noticed that ratings were slipping on Saturday morning cartoon shows. Even the Smurfs, even the big stars. And the average cost of a cartoon show, even imported from with the slave labor in South Korea making the drawings, was about $300,000. So there's not enough profit if I can only put 5 minutes of bad sugary treats in. We're just letting them go. So by the early 2000s, it began to disintegrate. Little by little, things were changing. For instance, networks would say, we're getting out of the business. Let's hire somebody. Let's farm that out. We'll just pay for stuff that somebody else made. So Nick Jr. took over CBS's whole Saturday morning slot. CBS is great. We don't have to be bothered. We can make a little money, and we don't have to produce the stuff. They've already produced it. This is ancillary stuff for them. So we're talking maybe $100,000 a show instead of $300,000. So, and then there was the Cartoon Network. Oh yes, believe me, I would never have gotten through school if I could have watched Johnny Quest at 2 o'clock in the morning. It changed everything. Plus, excuse me, the internet, video games. Video games were actually becoming an entertainment. So mostly boys and girls would come, turn on the video game. Well, I got 3 hours. My mom lets me do this. I can sit here and not be bothered. So that killed off the cartoon. Other things. And of course, you have CW. That network was the last one to do cartoons. And they quit in 2014. So by September 2014, the official Saturday morning block was a thing of the past on network television. You can go on Channel 6 right now on Saturday morning, see the Today Show. It's cheaper. Not only that, sports, which they're already paying for. You can put that on and make more money at 12 o'clock and cut the cartoons. So the whole landscape, cable, video, games, internet, changed it. How many children do y'all see on iPads staring? I mean children. 8, 10. They're not even watching television. What a come down. My mother used to tell me to get out from underneath the television. Stop looking at the television so much. Get out. Get out and go do something. All right. Occasionally. Sometimes we say, sit down and be quiet and watch TV. Sometimes. But yes, that was the end. 2014, about 50 years, just about, of Saturday morning cartoons. So, 2014, that was all. So if you want to watch Saturday morning cartoons on Saturday morning, you can look at the kiddie channels. You can look at Nick. You can look at the Cartoon Network, Boomerang. There's plenty of stuff on. But the idea of a child actually blocking out time to to watch cartoons is pretty much a thing of the past now. You can watch cartoons whenever they want. So that is the rise and fall of the Saturday morning cartoon show. Thank you all. Any questions for the man who knows too much silly trivia?
My husband was born in 1958. I was born in 67. Did you talk about Super Chicken or Tennessee Tuxedo? I will not be able to go home if I do not mention if talk about Super Chicken or Tennessee Tuxedo.
That fell into the superhero shtick, the entire superhero thing. There were all kinds of superheroes, yes. When you're mentioned by a stranger, and you know your life's in danger, and you are wicked, there is only one person to call in the world. You just call for Super Chicken. Call for Super Chicken. Yes. Yes. Super Chicken. Don't you remember Tom Slick? Tom Slick. He was the middle cartoon of Super Chicken. You go back and talk about Tom Slick. In the thunder, he's flapper, he is on your tail. He won't quit because there's no such word as quit to Tom Slick. Tom Slick. Yes. And Tennessee Tuxedo. That was an early one. That actually predates the modern Saturday morning cartoon block. Yes. Tennessee Tuxedo, Chumley the Walrus, and the professor with his 3D BB, the three-dimensional blackboard. And of course, Tuxedo and his friend would go to the professor and he would explain how stuff works. That was the educational portion. Yes. Oh, of course, boys. I'll be glad to tell you how television works. Yes, Professor, tell us that. Yeah, I want to know Hollywood. Like that. So he would do that, his 3D BB, he'd have the drawings would come to life and everything. Kind of like a super PowerPoint before PowerPoint. So, yes. So, yes. Any other cartoon characters?
Since you got the lovely ladies on your shirt, I being the feminist that my students accuse me of being, and rightfully so. How do you think women were? What is your perspective on women like Josie and the Pussycats, Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels, Daphne and Velma? Is that too deep?
No. In fact, the advancement of actually anatomically correct women on television was a bit of a breakthrough. Okay. For a long time, women were just cartoonily drawn. So you have anatomically correct women in Captain Caveman and Angels and all that. But again, as television progressed, so did Saturday morning. For instance, what was the name of that? Dyna Woman. Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. Yes, Electra Woman and Dyna Girl. That was the feminist for the kids back then. You had Super Stretching Micro Woman, who was evil in their marriage. So they kind of, Isis, yes, Isis, who was a companion show to Shazam. Yes, she was Shazam. And, so, yes. In fact, the cartoon Star Trek made a milestone when in an episode called the Lorelei Signal, the men started fainting and feeling weak, and the women had to take over the Enterprise and save Captain Kirk, Spock, and McCall. And of course, Black Sister Girl got to command the Starship Enterprise after how many years? You've been promising we have equal rights for women, and she's never been in command, and she's a line officer? So finally, also black people, again, here, on the shirt, Josie, you got Valerie. I used to love reading Archie Andrews comics, particularly when my hormones started going off, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. But I noticed, even my best friend, we would buy the episodes, the comic books with Betty and Veronica at the beach in bikinis. So Betty and Veronica at the beach in bikinis did the work that Playboy would be doing in near few years. Because a particular artist named Dan DiCarlo drew them in this style. I was choosing. I knew there was a difference between the artists. So I would put it back if it didn't have my artist. And if Dan DiCarlo was drawn, I said, that's the one I want. So you had black people on top. Also, trivia. And I apologize if I skipped over because it was such a huge overview and trying to get on all the bases. But black people busting out on Saturday morning cartoons. The first black cartoon show was the Harlem Globetrotters in 1970 on CBS. Yeah. Here the Globetrotters, oh yeah. What? Yeah. The Globetrotters. Yeah, that was a Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Very good artwork. And that was the first. Now, let's see, 1969. 69, a black guy was on the Hardy Horse. I remember when they were in the airport. The black guy was part of the gang. He's sitting there getting his shoes shined by a white shoe shine guy. And I'm saying, oh, somebody's being purposeful here. All right, all right. Who's the guy talking about the black power, the white man shining the brother's shoes? All right, all right. And this was just a cartoon. But my brother jumped up. Aha, I like this cartoon. That's right, yes. Right on. So black people started, of course, we all know the Cosby Show with the Cosby Kids. Now, my whole attitude on that, I still love Heathcliff Huxtable. He didn't do anything wrong. You know, I didn't do anything. Who is this Bill Cosby? Maybe pointing at me when I'm coming on the street. Why am I not in jail? So it's like that. So that blew up. And of course, I also mentioned Muhammad Ali's cartoon. So that was big. Also, if you go to the comic book shop, you're familiar with a comic book called Superman versus Muhammad Ali? Oh, you gotta find it. It's worth you love it. Superman versus Muhammad Ali. The fight of the century for the fate of the world. They loved it. It was huge. One of the gimmicks was on the cover, they had celebrities in the fight audience. Johnny Carson, Lucille Ball, Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, who were president at the time, and First Lady. So yeah, and as far as, we never had an all-female adventure cartoon. Yes, there was Isis, what was that one? The He-Man and She-Ra. Yeah, something jive. I don't know what else it is. Okay. It's not violent. I wanted Valeria from Conan. Now she was bad. Can you make a cartoon out of her? So, and my thing is calmed down, but that's okay. So, any other questions? I'm filled with answers.
So it seems like every different baby, it seems like the toy industry takes over Saturday morning.
Actually, that was syndication. Ronald Reagan fixed it so that you don't have to have, see, in the old days, you can't have the toy in the cartoon. Now, the Flintstones could get away with it because they were prime time. They would have the Flintstones building blocks, and Pebbles would play with them in the cartoon and in the credit sequence set of Flintstone building boulders. But that's prime time. Y'all get away with that. But on Saturday morning with children, no, you can't do that. The commercial has to be separate from the cartoon. Ronald Reagan came in and eliminated that. Said, hey, you can make a cartoon out of the toy, out of the cartoon, okay. Then you had G.I. Joe, Transformers, robots in the sky, Transformer, one that meets the eye. So you have that going on. So now kids are screaming at you to get the stinking thing. But you know, that's television. In my day, Captain Kangaroo advertised swim bites. He didn't like it, but you want to keep it showing there, you do what we tell you. So he was glad when they forced that. But then he didn't like it. By that time, he was on PBS. So, shoot. It's all changed. All right, in the back.
Who's the time machine? Who's the one with the time machine that's built?
Oh, that was, yes.
The way back.
The way back.
I'm waiting for someone to invent. The way back.
That was a little cartoon on Boeing. Sherman and Peabody. All right. thank you all for coming. I've had a great time talking to you. Excellent, excellent. Well, that was fun. Next time, Star Wars. It was always left-wing propaganda, you troll.
I'm gonna have to ask you.
When my husband was
Now, this looks cool.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I was enchanted by your realism. I was like, my husband is singing in my ear, but it's not